Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Personal Mastery Training, the Alliance. This is the Alliance episode. We've got three of us on here. We've got myself, Alvin Brown, Brandon Anderson, and Ray Janak Tanya. Here we go. We're gonna get it started. This is all about mastery, personal mastery. It's about how do you tame, how do you control, how do you master the mental game. It's an illusion that we have any control over anything outside of ourselves. So our goal is how do we break things down? How do we uh, master life, our own life? Forget about everybody else. Because once you can master yourself, I've been in sports, elite level of sports. I'm business owner, family man, and all of those areas take mastery of self to really do well in them, all of those areas. So once you can master yourself, you master all of it. So what we're going to talk about today, it's been an interesting year. This is kind of going to be a wrap up of 2025 and also projection into 2026, all wrapped into one. And we're going to talk about a powerful conversation. So recently, 2025 has been one hell of a year for me. Um, and my cohorts here too have had their challenge. Everybody has a challenge, but for me, I'm going to talk about from me personally. It's been one hell of a year. In March of this year, I lost my son, and then as we wind down the year, in November we lost our co-host, Dr. Charlie Cartwright, and a few others in my life. One other person I'm close friends with, he's also being challenged. So it's been that year. You know, I did a podcast earlier on the seasons of life, how life goes in seasons. And the whole game of the seasons of life metaphor is the only season we have to learn to master is winter. Because everything else is easier. Summer is great. Everyone loves summer, autumn, reaping and sowing, and spring is all of it. The only one we need to master is winter. So here's what we're going to talk about today. The title of this podcast is Borrowed Time. See, just recently, my son, we went into his oncologist, and my wife and his wife went to the oncologist who took care of him, and they were talking about the entire process. And they said, the oncologist said it's a rare form of cancer that he had, uh, rhabdomyosarcoma, very rare, very, very small amount of people get this. And she said, there's nothing we could do. I don't know if this was a reassurance. I'm still processing this, but it was almost like a trajectory. He was on a trajectory for where he ended up. This thing was aggressive. It was unrelenting. It was almost like a hired hitman. It was set on its way, and it was just nonstop. So even if he was a vegetarian, she said, even if he lived right, he ate right, he thought right, this thing was set and for a quest, for outcome. So it made me start thinking about this idea of borrowed time. How we didn't know, obviously, and he didn't either, and thank goodness he didn't. He lived his life really fully. That's the best thing I can tell you, is that he lived his 31 years was full. I've seen people live double, triple that, and it wasn't as full as he lived it, that 31. So it made me think about borrowed time, how we're all on this on a cellular level. Every cell in our body at some point dies, apoptosis. It dies, cell death. And so we're all on this borrowed time, and we don't know when. Thank goodness the game is not set up like that. But I find a lot of people, when I start thinking about it, I find a lot of people are treating this thing as if they have the secret, that they're not on the same borrowed time scenario, and they are living it as Henry David Thoreau would say. So many men, he said men at the time, but women included, live lives of quiet desperation. They want to be something, they want to do something, but they're gonna wait until, or maybe they're thinking, I'm not good enough for this dream. Something stops them from launching forward, from living their best life, from They hear the music in them, but they never truly let it play. So it's from this vantage point that as we wrap up the year and I think back to this year, how unpredictable, unscripted life is, and how we are all on borrowed time. I want to reflect back and let's look back and see how we did. What did you do this year that moved you forward? That was powerful. Did you? You'll never reach your potential. By the way, my mentor, Dr. Tom Hill, would always tell us, and I've said this in many podcasts. He said you can't dream big enough. So when we get stuck on this idea that we want to do this thing, but you don't know how to do it, you don't this, you don't. You can think of all the things that you don't have. I'm gonna say just get started because you can't dream big enough anyways. So even if you did the thing fully that you're dreaming of right now, you're gonna realize, oh man, I got more left. So just get started. The best time to start is today. And then you never know. That's how I got my degree. I was contemplating, 39 years old, 4 kids at the time. Geez, I want to get my psychology degree. Oh, but all these reasons. I said, you know what? In 4 years or 5 years, I'm going to be this age anyway, so I might as well get started. So with that, I'm going to leave it right there and let my cohorts pipe in here on the conversation of borrowed time.
Hey, Brandon, you go for it.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
I'll jump in here, man. What an appropriate topic and a an opportunity for everyone listening to this, and even the three of us to really dive into that idea of borrowed time because that's exactly what it is. And listening to you talk, Al, I read something. It reminded me. I read something just the other day, literally yesterday, and it said when we understand that each day isn't one more day, but one less, we will start giving more value to things that truly matter. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't help but think about, and I'm guilty of this, and I'm much more aware and in the moment today than I ever have been. And it's realizing that I get to do this, right? Whatever this is, fill in the blank. You know, you're talking about your son and all the the struggles and the challenges, and the doctor's appointments and being there. But you got you got to do that, right? You during that time, right? And in the moment, you were getting to do that and be present with him. And I think about, we've already mentioned Charlie, and that I got to have lunch with him or dinner when I came into Kansas City, or the schedules, cross paths. And then I think about there's a ton of stuff there's a lot of things none of us want to do, right? You got to do that hard stuff, right? The things you don't want to, when you're tired and you're like, I don't want to go to the gym. That's the best time to go to the gym, honestly, because afterwards you're going to feel so much better, right? And you get to do that, not that you have to. So really stepping back and looking at the things you have on your agenda as we roll into next week and the week after and the new year. We're going to start being inundated with, oh, 2025, great. 2026 going to be my year. And, I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing this. And the January 1 resolutionists. And hey, and hats off to you. I'm not knocking anyone. There's something from a psychological standpoint that when you say, hey, January 1st, right, I'm doing this. But
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the big picture and you look at the data statistically, the vast majority don't follow through, and it's because it turns into this. That's just one more day,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now it's one less, and we need to embrace. We have an opportunity and a choice to embrace the moment, and that we get to do this, and really start valuing what truly matters, and that time, people,
Mm-hmm.
with the time with people, or just being a part of their life, getting to call certain people,
Yep.
because many of us have folks we can't call anymore, right? Or there's things we can't do anymore because life has changed, we've moved, whatever the case may be. Opportunities have passed, but that doesn't mean you don't have new opportunities that will present themselves to you in the future in that one less day, right? Tomorrow. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hanging around elderly people is something that we don't, maybe not all of us get to do. as often as we should. Recently, we do this every single year. For the past year, I couldn't do it. The year before too, I couldn't because my sons were sick. But we went to see my kid's great grandfather. Okay, he's still alive, and I remember going into his apartment in his elderly home and looking at this photo album, and you see all these great smiles, great people, all kinds of lives in there. And as I flip through every single pages, full of life. When I look at these pictures, none of these people are still alive. Okay, he's the only remaining one. And then you see all of these lives of people that were here doing amazing things, loving on each other, having problems like we all do, not here anymore. And then for that one moment, it just struck me. Where in this world, there are so many things that we think are so important that are really not that important. Okay, not that important. We have this moment right now that we get to cherish, that we get to live. And even as we dig into mastery, what is mastery really for me, in my opinion, the way I see it, I'm like, you can control certain things, and there are other things you don't have control of. What do you do with the things you can actually control? Okay, how are you bettering yourself to make this life, to make this experience better, to enjoy, to give back, to make it last, to maybe leave a little bit of ripple in this whole time that is borrowed, as we said. Okay, those pictures live on. As I look at them, I'm having feeling. Charlie, our friend, he's not there anymore. Okay, he's not there. We borrowed him while he was here, and he definitely lives through us and a lot of other people. So, man, I think it's always very important to just look around, okay, and see how special this moment is and how it doesn't last forever. And we don't have 1,000 years to live. Okay, but the only thing that we can control is really the time that is now and that we have been accorded. Next thing I want to talk about too is how good it is to be alive. We tend to forget that also. Okay, we tend to focus on the little things, the little problems here and there, while so many people will probably give anything to be in positions that we get to be in, to feel the things that we get to feel. Let's never forget how great it is simply to be alive, simply to be here. Okay, and how this gift, again, anything that's given can be taken away, will be taken away. This is what gives value to this life also, and it's just great to be alive. So, anyways, these are little reminders that I've been getting in the past few days, and that just remind me how important this moment is and how to cherish it, and how, hey, one day I'll be that person in those pictures. Okay. But right now, I don't get to look back. I get to actually be here. Okay. I get to create those pictures. What do I make of them? What do we make of them? That's really what's most important. Whatever is ahead of us is not here yet. Okay? It's being created by how we live today. And whatever is behind us are simple pictures. They are pictures. They are part of our stories, yes, but we are living our stories today. So let's just make sure we actually get up and we do live those stories to the fullest. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, powerful, powerful conversation right there. I was just googling something as you talk about that. Yeah. So Brandon brought up one less day, and it's so true. They say how many sunshines today today as we speak, us together, we speak once a week on average. Let's say how many more Sundays? When you think about it, right? How many more Sundays? do you get? How many more sunrises? How many more winters will we get? When this author started to pose it like that, how many more sunshines? How many more summer breaks do you get? And when you think about, 50 summer breaks, whoa, it's not it's not forever. It seems like summer lasts forever, and it seems like, geez, I got to go to this cottage again, or I got to go to this whatever again, or I got to go. But when you break it down to only 50 of these or 40 of these, because you do it once a year or whatever it is that you do, you think, wow. And then I was reading a book, which is what I was attempting to Google here, and the book is called it's about it's a time management book, and it's a book on how many weeks. Uh, not don't look at your life in the time management sense of it's how many weeks do you have. It starts breaking everything down into weeks. So let me see if I can find it here. And it yeah, 4,000 weeks. 4,000 weeks. I thought that was the name of it. And it's all about, if you break down 4,000 weeks, it's an average someone lives. I think I don't remember the amount of years that is, but 4,000 weeks is like 70 years, let's say. And when you start to look at things like that, 4,000 weeks, whoa, wow. What am I doing with my time? Because you don't have 70 years. When you start to really break it down, 4,000 weeks, whoa. That's what you have to that's what you have to work with. And if you get more than that, it's a bonus. But so how many more sunrises are you going to get? How many more chances do you attempt to get to start that program? There's a reason why some people, when you watch me online, I'm dancing around or I'm doing some kind of thing where you think, what's this guy doing? There's a reason, there's a method to my madness why I do that. One, life should be fun. I spent a lot of years doing a lot of serious stuff, raising kids and being an adult. And so if I can keep some sense of being a childlike wonder and childlike curiosity and childlike play, I'm going to keep it. And here's what I know. Once you start, aging starts here between your ears, right? It starts in your mind. When you start doing the things you love because, what do people think, or, this, that, whatever, that starts a downgrade to self-consciousness. And then everything else goes, your physical goes with it. You don't use it, you lose it. So that causes me to never want to stop doing the things I love doing, not because I want to hear what you think, or aren't you a father? Aren't you a professional? Aren't you a this? Aren't you that? I don't care. It's what I want to do. It's what makes me happy. That's part of mastery. And so, Ray, when you brought up this conversation of seeing someone in a picture, or the elderly, or hanging out with the elderly, not long ago I was driving in my car, and I pulled up behind at a stoplight behind an older couple. They were in the front seat talking to each other, and they're at the lights. They're ahead of me. And I could see them talking and laughing and you know, interacting with each other. And I was thinking in my head going, wow, at some point they were young and that youthful vibrancy was there, and they were kids once with young ideas, fresh ideas. Just life was just this thing where they're untouchable. We're immortal at that point, of life, and just excitement. Because I start looking at the difference between young and older people. Youth, there's a sense of what's next, curiosity, newness. The horizon ahead was like everything, and they had youthful thoughts, meaning fresh. They were adapting to change. They were just this energy, and that's what's great about them. I think as we get older, we start to buy into the everything I just said. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you shouldn't be able to do this. Oh, you're getting old. I'm working with my mentor now. He's 80 years old. He's turning 80 next year. But he said, Alvin, I just did that bodybuilding contest. He says, Alvin, I want to look like you. And I said, oh, cool, let's do it. He's like, yeah, let's go. So he's 80 years old, and he's got this energy about him. Him and his wife, actually, I'm working with both of them now, helping them with their fitness and helping them get going. See, that kind of energy is what, because he had a shoulder injuries and his doctor said to him, "Oh, when we can do something, but what's the use in a way? What's the use of doing anything? You're older now." And almost like, why bother? See, that those kind of language is where people stop. Why bother? So when you look at the young, and you said you look at those pictures, and you look at, I do that, Ray. I look at pictures and I think to myself, when I say look at pictures of, say, 1970s, people from 90, the Polaroids and the different pictures, and I see a youthful vibrancy in them. I see this, you know, the hair, the hair and the booth here and the crew cuts and the whatever else they were doing back then, and they were looking, just partying and the whole nine yards, just having fun. And then all of a sudden, I look at them today, and the the conditions of time, they're a bit more miserable, they're a bit more closed in, and that's what I don't want to have happen. I want to accept change. AI is coming. I don't want to be, oh, where's this world going to with AI? And no, it is here. I'm sure everybody complain about the horseless carriage and where are these things going? So I never want to be that person. I want to accept change, and I want to accept. I still listen to music that I listen to all genres of music because they keep me. I listen to the all the way from the Motown to today's hip hop and R&B and everything between rock. I listen to everything so I can stay current and vibrant. I don't want to hear, oh, those, what's this music? No, the music is reflecting the kids' culture today and what they're dealing with. That's what the music's about. Because they said that about rock and roll. They said that about disco. They said about everything. Where's this? Where's this music? I want to accept and embrace. Um, so what I'm getting at here is when we take that snapshot, Ray, and you look at the picture of that person in the moment of time when they were alive, vibrant, and just having fun. And you look at them now, and then maybe the time, the challenges of their era got to them. And see, I've gone through, as you know, we talked about it. I've gone through many challenges, but you'll still see me. I have my time with my challenges, and I work on that myself. I work on that with good friends and conversation, and I introspect and I journal and I work up my stuff with my challenge. But then I go to the world and I show up to the world. But I have my time with my child, not ignoring it. It's my time though, it's my personal time. I'm not gonna post it and look for comments, and no, that's my time with my personal challenges, and I process them that way. Then when I shift to the world, here I am again. So um yes, we have to really honor and look at that we are on borrowed time. We are on, all of us. The one thing I know is no one gets out of this game called life alive. So we're all on borrowed time. So we got to use it. We have to, every picture I take of you of every year in your life should look vibrant. I want you to look at my 80-year-old picture if I get that blessing and go, wow, this guy looks like he was having fun then. I want you to look at my, 30-year-old picture and go, wow, that guy looks like he's having fun then. I don't want you to look and see an old beaten, you know, version of myself at any time. So with that, I'll pass the mic because I could go on.
Man, I so many good things there that were said and mentioned. And Ray, you talked about elderly people, and I just love elderly people. I love being around them. I love talking to them. When I was over in London earlier this year, sitting with the professor that I was with, uh, Sir Kerry Cooper, great individual, definitely a gentleman later in life. He'd probably be offended if I called him elderly, but to me, he was definitely an older man and old enough to definitely be my grandfather. But just his wittiness and sense of humor and perspective on life was just beautiful, and I couldn't get enough interaction with him. And you were talking about grandparents, and as I mentioned before, I'll be 43 on Tuesday. I'm actually a grandfather of two little girls that are a couple of months old. And I'm thinking about listening to you talk. That's not normal anymore. There's a whole generation or two that are going to grow up having never met their first grandfather, let alone a great grandparent, right? I'm going to be a I'll be, provided I'm healthy and I live to 60, or my early 60s, more than likely I'll be a great grandfather. I might even hit great great if I get to my 80s, right? Which is incredible to think about, especially when you look at 4,000 weeks. I'm halfway, right? You look at, I was listening to you, Al, and I, good old Google to the rescue, right?
Hmm.
Heartbeats. On average, 70 to 80 year time span, most folks will have about 3 billion heartbeats. I've used up half of mine. I'm reminded by what Tim Grover said at an event I was at recently and haven't had the opportunity to meet him and shake his hand, and how what you feel right there, that's your superpower, right?
Hmm.
And to use it wisely, right? Don't waste it on things and people and time, that events and stresses and worries that don't matter in the grand scheme of things. You talk to these elderly folks, go to a nursing home and visit with them. The holidays is probably one of the most alone time, or times where they feel alone, or because so many of them don't have anyone left, right? And they're there by themselves. And I have friends that visit. I haven't gone in a long time, but man, what an opportunity that I'm missing, right? To learn from them and hear stories, but none of them are going to say, man, I sure am glad I wasted all that time on this that didn't matter, right? Or this little thing that, Ray, you mentioned all these little things that we're so wrapped up and concerned about in the big picture of life really have no value, no weight, right? It's humans, person mastery. Think about what we're carrying, the baggage, the 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 failures, the what ifs on our shoulders that we all walk around with, the unseen baggage, so to speak, that we don't talk about, we don't share, but it's weighing us down when it really doesn't matter. Some of that, right? You can let that go, and I think part of mastery is being able to let go.
Hmm.
You closed fists. You can't receive. You can't put anything in them, right? You have to have open hands. To do that, you got to let go of whatever it is you're holding on to from the
Yep.
past or the fears of the future. You got to open your hands to be able to receive what this life has to offer you and the opportunities. And you got to open your eyes too. We can't just be afraid and be scared and hiding behind, the fear of what might be or might not in order to move
Hmm.
forward. So, yeah,
Yeah.
control what you can control. And it comes down to two words for me: choice and action. You got to make a choice and then you got to put it into action. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
Yes, sir. Let go or be dragged.
Yeah, and anyways, whenever I see kids with their grandparents, it's such a special thing for me. Just for the fact that growing up, I've realized some sacrifices that my parents did, being so close to their parents and decided to leave them behind, in Cameroon for the benefit of their children, bringing us over here. So what happened is that it created this close knit family unit. It was me and my brothers, but I knew I had grandparents somewhere that I loved, that meant something to me, that loved me, but I didn't get a chance to actually spend time with them. I spoke to them over the phone. Um, on my father's side, they didn't speak French or English. Okay, so there was even this separation. But I remember going back to Cameroon when I was a little bit older and going to their village, and just the way they looked at me and my brother, and I brought my wife. I was blessed enough to actually bring my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time, and just the way they were looking at her with like so much love. Okay, this is really a special thing, and that leads me to my next point: is that yes, we are on borrowed time, but I believe there's a distinction between clocked time and lived time. It's two different things.
Mm.
We tend to just clock in sometimes and forget to live.
Mm-hmm.
Some moments are rare, some moments are special, some moments give color and meaning to our lives. So, within this context, all time is precious, right? But let's be honest, they don't weight the same. Okay, they really don't. So, how many of those moments do we create, and how much of our time are we actually living? Are we living instead of simply clocking in? I even learned something about the brain and the human mind is a lot of our memories are not exactly our memories, they are reconstruction. Okay? Our mind just reconstruct what we know of this time. So we don't remember it exactly, it's a reconstruction because we truly felt it in that moment. So yeah, that just makes me think of it that much more. It's the rarity and the preciousness of certain moments. And I see it every day that whenever I see my children with their grandparents, I tend to just sit back and get very quiet just because I'm in awe of just watching this scene happening because I know of how special this is. It's not something that I got. And now seeing that, wow, they get to live that just brings me so much happiness and makes these moments that that much more special. So every hour that we live, every second that we spend, every day less that we have, okay, in this bank account of time, how much time are we allocating to building relationships, to doing things that truly make us happy, to helping someone else grow, to helping ourselves fulfill more of our potential? Those are the moments that weight that much more. So when we audit a business or anything, a team, that's the first thing we do, right? We look at, okay, which should we take away? What should we add? Where are our strengths? Where are our weakness? Auditing our time isn't just filling up a sheet and figuring out, okay, we did this at this moment, and we did this at this moment, and we did this at this moment. Let's go deeper in that. And let's make sure that this timesheet of our lives that we fill up is as much as possible filled with moments that are lived and not simply clocked in. And with that, I'll pass the mic.
All right. I am going to. You just connected something for me, Ray. That I've heard and I've repeated many, many times, but I didn't extrapolate it into life. So one of my favorite modern day philosophers who passed away was Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn, I remember him saying, you don't get, when it comes to jobs and work, he says, you don't get paid for the hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. Right? Just think about that for me. A lot of people think they get, oh, I get $10 an hour, $20 or whatever it is. And when he said that, that changed me because I went, whoa, people don't pay you for the hour because they could mail you a check, right? Here's the hour. No, but if you want to elevate your game in anything, speaking, whatever business you do, if you bring more value to that 1 hour that we have together, that's why some people get paid $10, $1, $5, and some people get paid millions of dollars for that 1 hour. Same time, but different pay structure. Why? Not because you're better humans, not because they bring more value to the hour. So when I extrapolated, when you said clock time versus lived time, I thought, yes, that's exactly it. Most people are getting per hour wage. They're putting in the time. Let me see. Putting in the time. And some people are getting paid abundantly, meaning they're living life at such an abundant level. They don't want it to end. It's like amazing. They're doing more in 1 hour than somebody could do in their lifetime because they're totally and they're getting Napoleon Hill's book Think and Grow Rich. He wasn't talking about money. He was talking about rich in so many ways. Rich in spirit, and rich in this, rich in that. So yeah, clock time versus live time. It applies across the board. If you're struggling in your business, not making money in your life, you're getting minimum wage, just think about the value you're bringing to that hour. What value you're bringing to your company, to your customers, to you. Now, let's extrapolate that and think about what value you're bringing to 1 hour of your life. And that's your just employer. Your employer is life, right? So Brandon said earlier, and I'll just make one little check on that in case some people are listening to this too or who are thinking the same. Brandon said, I love hanging out with elderly people. He gets a lot of value from that. And then Ray, you said you love watching your grandparents, your kids with your grandparents, and you get joy from that. Just sit back and watch. But I'm gonna say it's a very little addendum on that. Those old elderly people, I like hanging out with elderly people who have something to bring to the table. You know what I mean? Not every elderly people I like to hang out with because some of them are miserable. They've lived a miserable life and they've not seen it the way we're talking about. For instance, one of my clients, she said, she brought up something really interesting. She said, Alvin, sometimes I feel invisible. She said, as I get older, I feel invisible. People walk by me and literally they don't see me. They walk by and they just, like I'm just there. And I sat back and I thought, huh, that's true. Then I had a younger man who lift weights, and he said I lift weights because when I was chubby in high school, and I when I got into bodybuilding and I started taking all this stuff and got big, he says every time I prep for a show, people would want to work out with me. They'd notice me, and then when I went off season and got fat again, no one noticed me. But my point when he brought that up and she brought it up that she's invisible, I thought, and I know this lady, she's not bringing any value to the table. She's just worked at a job and she's a little bit miserable. So then no one wants to talk to her. So you do go invisible because life is moving. Life is moving, and there's a lot of people around. You do, if you think about it, you do ignore. We tend to pay attention to people who draw our attention. So it's not age; it's about how you show up. Brandon, you were talking about that person in England. You love talking to them. Why? Because they have something to say. They have something to add value to you. That's why you love talking to them. So my point is this. And Brandon, Ray, you were saying your grandparents. See, a lot of family situations aren't that way. Those grandparents aren't the type. You're blessed to have grandparents, plural, that your kids can actually, you sit back and go, I love that. There's some people who they'd never see their grandparents because they're not the grandparents you want your kids to go to. So now that brings me back to my main point here is the quality of, see, I know at 90 years old, I intend to have an aura that you're interested. Who is this guy? Well, how does he show up like this? Because 93% of communication is nonverbal. So when you're ignored, it's because you have checked out, in my opinion. You've checked out of life. And there are people who, if you hang out with some people who have done some things, they're still drawing people around them who want to sit and listen and just listen to their life story because they have a life to tell about. So it goes back to your thing about checked in, clocked in, or just living or just existing. right? Are you clocked in doing time? Or are you living a life? Because that's the life everybody wants to tune in on. And then, do I get? Do you get to get older? Some people say, "Oh, getting old sucks." No, it does not suck. Getting old is a privilege, and if you do it right, you will be surrounded by the right people at that time when you and they're all getting from you. It's a great thing. So that's what I wanted to add to that, to make that a little bit more, to because when Brandon said I love hanging out, there's some old people I don't like hanging out with. They have not, they're not going to add value, and they're miserable. Now, how do you want to end that? I want to end that where people want to. I'll never be lonely because I want to add value to you every time, and so your time with me will be rich. So, with that, I pass the mic on the last for the last word as we wrap this thing up. Brandon, over to you, my man.
Yeah, I'll add, you know, off what you just said about, that time being rich, right? I think too often we see rich as materialistic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
everything we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about, from mastery to our time and the value of being with the right people that add value to us, um, that's rich, right? Having
Mm-hmm.
those, embracing and capitalizing on those opportunities to spend a little bit of time with someone, to just embrace the moment, right? Even if it's hard or it's not something you want to do, but you should and you need to, right? I think we shy away from some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, again, making that choice and taking action on it, on whatever it may be, is going to add value to your life, and it's going to enrich you and your life. And, and for me, I think that's something that I miss sometimes too, right? If I'm being real, is I'm either tired, I'm in a hurry, or you just don't. It's the whole phrase, we've all heard it, right? Stop and smell the roses,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we don't do that enough. And that alone will add value and enrich you. And that's what real. I guess that's what it really means to be rich,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not financially. Although that's great. Don't get me wrong. And all the materialistic things, but there are things that are far more valuable that we miss out on every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't. It's not one more day, it's one less day. So with that, I'll pass the mic.
I'm just gonna say something quick before Ray jumps in on that idea of rich. When you think about money, sometimes we get stuck on money because it's tangible and we can touch it and you can calculate it. But that's not rich. And then we go back to the value you bring to the hour. Rich money has changed hands over time. It's changed meaning over time. Money used to be how much land you have, how much steel you have, how much tech you have, information, Google. Now it's wisdom. So and it's attention actually today. How much attention you have draws. So money has changed meaning. So money is, don't get stuck on money. Money is this amorphous thing. It's not meaningless. It's the value, and that's what you're talking about exactly. I'm gonna reiterate what you just said, Brandon. Is richness is how you make people feel. That's rich, and that's when the abundance happens. We people pay billions for this richness. So, um, Ray, last
Yeah,
word.
I love that. The last thing I'll say about that, when we're talking about being alive and bringing value to the hour, and I call that contributing, elevating. Um, it comes when I think of being alive. Okay, I look at nature, for instance. I look at history, and I see people who are a little bit wild, but in a good way. Okay, I think in our nature, in our nature, we're meant to be ourselves. And as similar as we are to each other, we also, all of us have this little thing that's a little different. Okay. And if you let that come out, if you bring that into the world, there's some type of disruption, a little disruption that happens that changes everything, that brings more color, that lets us see things in a different way. And that's how we are interesting. Alvin, you talked about aura. Okay. What is aura? Is, hey, maybe everyone thinks this way, everyone goes this way, and you're cool with that, but you have something a little bit different. Okay, something a little bit different that, oh, what is this? Let me tap into that. I think mastery is understanding the foundations of how things work and how we think and how we can move, but at the same time, allowing ourselves, giving ourselves permission that in this moment, if we're going to truly live, okay, truly live to our fullest potential, whatever that is, we have to find a way to truly be ourselves, whatever that means, okay? And for that, I think it's important to maybe stop living in a way that we're constantly waiting for permission. Okay. And you rather say sorry than asking for permission,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, especially when it comes to being yourself. I think if we do that and respect each other, but just be ourselves and let our light shine, let our fire burn, okay, good things happen for everyone. And we don't reinvent the wheel, but hey, we make it turn a different way, our own way. And that brings value to the hour. That brings value to families, to businesses. That changes everything. And from what I see, I love when people let their light shine, let their light shine, and I believe they smile different, and their life has that much more meaning. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave everyone with that. Let your light shine in this
Amen.
moment.
Amen. That's one of my thesis in life with this with the poem, and I won't get into it here. But we brought up a lot of great conversation for future expansion because this idea of energy and my one of my favorite poem is "Our Deepest Fear" by Marianne Williamson, and it says it all in there. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is not our darkness that frightens us; it's our light. So it's a powerful conversation, and the conversation of I'll leave this here as well. Won't get into it too much. That's a whole other conversation. Is sometimes when I do go to seniors' homes and visit someone, I'll see some people, around Christmas. Let's say Christmas time, they'll be there alone. No one comes to visit, and it may be because circumstances that are out of their control. There are those not. This is not a one-off, black and white fact. I'm gonna say, but many times you look at the history, they lived a life that ended up where they are. It's kind of like you made the bed and you have to line it in a way. So it's interesting how we live our life is we get paid off later on, right? It's a payoff. So with that, I will end it there. What's our one word to you have a power word for this podcast and for looking at 2026? Is there a word that you're gonna do? I'm gonna say mine right now. There's a new. I've been working on a book called The Four Pillars of Mastery. I'm actually this morning I had an epiphany after this year. I'm actually changing to the five pillars. There's a fifth pillar that I acceptance. Acceptance. When you can, that's truly part of mastery. Is accepting your situation and then doing something about it. It's almost like a little bit like AA. The minute you can admit that I am, then you can do something about it. But you need acceptance in order to achieve mastery. So my word is acceptance. What do you think, Brand?
Yeah, I think the word that comes to mind for me, just off the cuff and from the gut, is embrace.
Mm-hmm.
Right, embrace those opportunities, embrace the acceptance,
Yep.
embrace the moment, the
Yep.
light. Yeah, that'll be my
Yeah.
word.
Love it. And Ray, finish us off, brother.
I'll go with burn in a good way. That
Mm-hmm.
little fire in there,
Yep.
let it burn.
Light it up.
Let it burn. It's gonna warm all of us up.
Yep.
Good things are gonna happen.
Heart on fire. I heard somebody say that before. All right. So with that, everyone, we are the podcast 2025. We'll close it out with this podcast. Remember, we're on borrowed time. Again, it's not supposed to be negative. It's supposed to remind you that, as Brandon brought up, he said one less day. You take one out of the bank of life. One less day. 4,000 weeks, whichever one to put it. Whatever it takes for you to get going is my point here. It's time. Yesterday you said today. Today's the day. Let's go. Enough. This is not a dress rehearsal. We've all heard the cliches, right? The statements. But damn, let's. That's why I moved everything from a quote to a wisdom. Because when we hear quotes, we just let them go and just, oh, that's nice. No, it's real. It's real. This is not dress rehearsal. Let's go. If we want to take anything from Dr. Charlie, that is it. Borrowed time. Let's make the most of it. And what impact did you leave? There's lots there. So that one, we can say this one's dedicated to Dr. Charlie and my son. All right. Until next time, everyone. Peace. We wish you peace, love, and let's light it up a little bit of soul. All right.
That's right.
Until next time. Peace, everybody.